of the actuator is a piezoelectric. This piezo buzzer is a piezoelectric device for generating audio indications in the embedded application. If you want to alert something or do some give us some application to sound, means if you are giving this sound, you will get some other result, or you will get activated by the person who is manually controlling the devices. They also get they also get the information by this buzzer, that by this audio signals. For that reason, we are using this type of piezo buzzer in the embedded application. The piezo buzzer contains a piezoelectric diaphragm which produces audible sound in response to the voltage applied to it. Whatever the voltage we are giving to the piezo buzzer, with respect to that, the piezoelectric diaphragm will work. With respect to that, audio signals will be generated. Piezoelectric buzzers are available in two types: self-driving and external driven. The self-driving circuit contains all the necessary components to generate the sound at the predefined tone, and it will generate a tone on applying the voltage. See, self-driven means already you have all the necessary circuits connected in one actual PCB. If you are providing the voltage directly, it will switch on. External driven is piezo buzzers support the generation of different tones, means you will be having different type of tones, and the tone can be varied by applying various pulse train, different type of pulse train to the piezoelectric buzzer. A piezo buzzer can be directly interfaced to the port pin of the processor or controller, and depending on the driving circuit requirements, the piezo buzzer can also be interfaced using the transistor based driver circuit, as in the case of relay. As we have seen in the relay, in the same way transistor driven piezo buzzer also can be generated. Push button switches, it is an input device, that is push button switch come in two configuration, namely push to make and push to break. If in the push to make configuration, the switch is normally in the open state, and as and when you are pushing it, the connection will be made. If your push to break is the switch is normally closed, as and when you are pushing it, that will break it. The connection will break, and the push button stays in the closed for push to make type, or open for the push to break type state, as long as it is kept in the pushed state, and if breaks or makes the circuit connection when it is released. Push button switch, you can see here, push button is used to generate the momentary pulse you can generate here. You can see here the low pulse generator, high pulse generator. Whenever you are pressing this connection, the whatever the port pin connection is there, it is connected to the ground. That's why it will generate the active low pulse. If you are going for this, whenever you are connecting the pushing the button, the high voltage is passed through and given to the output. That's why high pulse will be generated. The push button is normally connected to the port pin of the host processor or controller. Depending on the way in which the push button interface to the controller, it can generate either a high pulse or low pulse. Okay. Communication interfaces. Next, we'll see with respect to communication interfaces. As I told you, onboard communication interface and offboard means externally how it is getting connected. That is communication. With respect to that communication interfaces, we can see we have so many different type of communication interfaces. Everything we'll see here. That is communication interface is essential for communicating with various subsystems of the embedded system and with the external world also. See, you will be having main processor. With respect to that, you will be having subcomponents which are interconnected with the main processor. For that, and also you need to communicate with the external world, external devices like sensors, actuators, all those things will be there. And you need to get the input from the keyboards. All those things are communication interfaces, how we are going to communicate with the external devices and internal subsystems. Okay. For an embedded product, the communication interface can be viewed in two different perspectives. One is onboard communication interface, that is device or board level communication interface. You have, for example, serial interface like I2C, SPI, UART, one wire, etc., and parallel bus interfaces. Okay, and external communication interfaces are product level communication interfaces, wireless interface like infrared, Bluetooth, wireless LANs, and radio frequency waves, and GPRS, etc. The wired interfaces are RS-232, RS-422, 422, RS-484, USB, Ethernet, parallel port, and CF2 interface, SDIO, and PCM, CIA, etc. These are the wired connections. Okay. Um, with respect to external devices and onboard communication interfaces, an embedded system is a combination of different type of components, that is chips, devices arranged on the printed circuit board. Okay, onboard communication interface refers to the different communication channels or buses for interconnecting the various integrated circuits and other peripherals within the embedded system. Okay, for example, serial interfaces like I2C, SPI, UART, one wire, etc. The parallel bus and parallel bus interface. First, we'll see with one by one. In first, we'll go with inter-integrated circuit, that is I2C. Inter-integrated, they have taken two I's and made it as I2C bus. The inter-integrated circuit bus, that is I2C, or I square C, is a synchronous bidirectional half duplex two wire serial interface bus. That is, it is a synchronous bidirectional half duplex, means you can two lines, two serial wires are there, bidirectional transmission we can carry out. How? One wire, one serial bus you will be using for the transmission, another serial bus you will be using it for the reception. Okay, bidirectional half duplex, because in one wire you can transmit only, if you are transmitting you can receive it at the same time. That's why it is called as half duplexed wire. Okay, transmission. And the concept of I square C bus was developed by the Philips Semiconductors in early 1980s. The original intention of I square C was to provide an easy way of connection between the microprocessor, microcontroller system, and the peripheral chips in the television set. For the television set, they have generated this connection. And easy and speed also, because two lines will be there. In one line you can transmit, in one line you can receive it. And I square C bus comprise of two bus lines. One is serial clock and one is serial data. Okay, responsible for generating the synchronization clock pulse, that is for serial clock. Serial data is responsible for transmitting the serial data across the devices, that is for data line. In I2C bus is a shared bus system to which many number of I2C devices can be connected. This, see, if we are maintaining one I2C bus, you can interconnect many devices which is having a possibility of communicating the data through I2C bus. Okay, devices connected to the I2C bus can act as either master or slave. The master device is responsible for controlling the communication by initiating or terminating data transfer, sending data, and generating necessary synchronization clock pulses. That is master device. See, always master device will be controlling the communication. initiating and terminating data transfer, and sending the data and generating the necessary synchronization clock pulses also. Slave device wait for the commands from the master and respond upon the receiving commands. Slave Whatever the devices which are connected towards the I2C bus, always it may act as a slave or master. Sometimes if the device is slave, it will wait for the command of the master and respond upon the receiving the commands. As and when commands are received, the slave will be responding. That is only receiver part. Okay. Master and slave devices can act either as a transmitter or receiver. As I told you, master is act as a transmitter, receiver, slave act as a receiver part. Okay. Regardless whether the master is acting as transmitter or receiver, the synchronization clock signal is generated by the master device only. Whatever the synchronization clock is there, that will be always generated by the transmitter. If transmitter is acting as a receiver, sorry, master is acting as a transmitter or receiver. I2C supports multi-masters on the same bus. In the same bus, you can communicate, you can connect many number of masters. And the following bus interface diagram illustrates the connection of the master and slave connection of I2C. As I told you, one is with respect to synchronous clock, that is SCL, and STA is for data transmission. Okay, and master microprocessor controller, you will be having a connection with STA and SCL, and in the same way for the slave 1 and 2, you will be having the connections, interconnection, and power supply for these bus lines also has to be provided. I2C bus interface is built around an input buffer and an open drain or collector transistor. When the bus is in ideal state, the open drain collector transistor will be in the floating state, and the output lines, that SDA and SCL, switch to high impedance state. You can see that here whenever, one second, I'm getting a call, one second. Yeah, connection of master and slave devices on I2C bus. Here, for proper operation of the bus, both the bus line should be pulled to the supply voltage, that is plus 5 voltage for TTL family and 3.3 volt for this CMOS family devices using the pull-up resistor. Using the pull-up resistors, you can see here, using pull-up resistors, we have provided the 2.2 K volts for the both SCL and STA lines, and which will be providing the voltage supply with respect to plus 5 volts and 3.3 volts with respect to the what type of family of line device we are using. It is, if it is TTL family, then 5 volts is needed. If we are going for CMOS family, 3.3 volts is needed. And the typical value of resistor used in pull-up is 2.2 K volts, and with pull-up resistor, the output lines of the bus in the ideal state will be high. Always you will be having the high voltage. The address of I2C device is assigned by hard wiring the address lines of the device to the desired logical level, done at the time of designing the embedded software hardware only. See, whenever the I2C hard wiring will be done, at that time only address lines will be also be generated, and this has been done whenever we are designing the embedded hardware only. At the time of preparation of PCB only we are going to do this hard wiring. And the sequence of operations for communicating with I2C slave device is listed. First, the master device pulls the clock line, that is SCL of the bus, to high. First you have to, master device has to generate the synchronous clock also, no? That's why master has to send the uh, 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 master has to make SCL line high first. The master device pulls the data line, that is SDL low, when the SCL line is logical high, and this is the start condition for the data transfer. Whenever we are making the SCL line high, you have to make data line low. The master device sends the address, that is 7-bit or 10-bit wide of the slave device, to which it wants to communicate over the STA line. Whatever the data it want to send, to which slave device it has to send, or to from which slave device it want to take the data. That information you will get from sending the address value, that is from 7 bits to 10 bits. Okay. Clock pulses are generated at the SCL line for synchronizing the bit reception by the slave device. Clock pulses are generated at the SCL line for synchronizing the bit reception by the slave device also. The MSB of the data is always transmitted first, and the data in the bus is valid during the high period of the clock signal. See, whatever the clock signals we are transmitting, within that high pulse, at the time of high pulse, whatever the data we are transmitting, that much only it will transfer, and the remaining data will wait for the next high pulse. Okay. And the master device sends the read or write bit, that is bit value 1, that is for read operation, bit value 0 for write operation, according to the requirement. The master device waits for the acknowledgement bit from the slave device whose address is sent on the bus along with the read or write operation command. Slave devices connected to the bus compares the address received with the address assigned to them, and then slave device with the address requested by the master device responds by sending the acknowledgement bit, that is bit value 1, over the STA line. Upon receiving the acknowledgement bit, the master device sends the 8-bit data to the slave device over STA line. If the requested operation is write to device, if the requested operation is read from the device, the slave device sends the data to the master through STA, that is vice versa. Okay. The master device waits for the acknowledgement bit from the device upon byte transfer complete for a write operation and sends the acknowledgement bit to slave device for the read operation. Okay. After the completion of transmission, it will wait for the acknowledgement from the slave that the data has been read or received. Okay, the master device terminates the transfer by pulling the SDA line high when the clock signal SCL is at logic high and indicating the stop condition. If whenever the STA and SCL both are high, then it has to stop the transmission. Okay. I2C bus support 3 different data rates, that is standard mode, that is data rate up to 100 kilobits per second, that is 100 kbps. Fast mode, that is data rate up to 400 kilobits per second, that is 400 kbps. High speed mode, that is data rate from 3.5 megabits to 3.5 3.4 or 3.4 mbps. Okay. Next we have serial peripheral interface, that is SPI. The serial peripheral interface bus is a synchronous bidirectional full duplex 4-wire serial interface bus. That is the serial peripheral interface bus is a synchronous bidirectional shifted out data bit from the slave device shift register enters the shift register of the master device through MISO, master in serial out pin. In summary, the shift registers of master and slave devices from a circular buffer. Yeah, whenever we are shifting the data from master to slave devices, you will be using the circular buffer. When compared to I2C, IPS bus is most suitable for applications requiring transfer of data in streams. If you want to transfer the data in terms of streams, then you will go for SPI. The only limitation of SPI doesn't support the acknowledgement mechanism. Here you won't be having any acknowledgement. In I2C you have acknowledgements. Next we have UART, that is universal asynchronous receiver and transmitter. UART, that is universal asynchronous receiver and transmitter based data transmission is an asynchronous form of serial data transmission. It doesn't require a clock signal to synchronize the transmission end and receiver end transmission. Instead, it relies upon the predefined agreement between the transmitting device and receiving device. Here you won't be having any problem with respect to the synchronization clock and all. And if you want to transmit the data, you have to transmit from the transmitter to the receiver. The serial communication settings, that is baud rate, number of bits per byte and parity, and number of start bits and stop bits and flow control for both transmitter and receiver should be set by identical. It will be set by the two different, with respect to the devices, it has been set. The start and stop of the communication is indicated through inserting special bits in the data stream. By inserting the special bits in the data stream, you can start or stop the communication. While sending a byte of data, a start bit is added first and stop bit is added at the end of the stream. The least significant bit of the data follows the start bit, and the start bit informs the receiver that the data byte is about to arrive. Okay, if the start bit is getting, the data byte is about to arrive. The receiver device starts polling its receiver line as per the baud rate settings. If the baud rate is X bits per second, the time slot available for one bit is one bit per second in that one. The receiver unit polls line at exactly half of the time slot available for the bit. If parity is enabled for the communication, the UART of the transmitting device adds a parity bit, that is bit value is 1 for the odd number of ones in the transmitted bit stream and zeros for the even number of ones.